What's up, guys? It is Dave, it is Duncan back from Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Bay Area based progressive death metal quartet Fallujah. The band's new album Empyrean will be released on September 9th via Nuclear Blast Records. So, formed in 2007, Fallujah are about to drop album number 5, which follows up their 2019 release Undying Light. The band said, after such an experimental expression with Undying Light, we sat down to write Empyrean completely refreshed and inspired, reveals Carstairs. It was like the musical tension of the last decade had been released, and we were ready to achieve goals the band had originally set out for. Empyrean is truly a return to form because we're doing what comes naturally to us, but with an intensity that we haven't achieved in the past. We set out to create something that represents the band and its history in its purest form, while also pushing our technical abilities further than we've ever gone before. From the beginning of this writing process until the end, we painstakingly made sure every aspect of the record would blow away our listeners. We meticulously scrutinised every riff and every note choice. There has never been this much effort put into a Fallujah record as we did with Empyrean, and the result is a truly monstrous record that we believe is the band's best work by a significant margin. We showed you restraint on the last record, now let us show you what happens when we leave it all on the table. Fallujah welcomed the return of longtime producer Mark Lewis on Empyrean. He's worked with Cannibal Corpse and Whitechapel in the past. Fallujah and Lewis recorded Empyrean at MRL Studios in Nashville, Tennessee over 6 months. The full Spectrum endeavour was then mixed and mastered by Lewis in 7 weeks. Okay, so Fallujah. There's another one we did as a reaction first. I'd heard the band before. I've listened to them for fucking many years.
You're like old school fan of this band.
I'm a big fan of Fallujah. I wasn't the biggest fan of the last album.
I don't think they heard you, Dave. You're fine.
And I think maybe part of that was because the previous album was Dreamless, which is my favourite Fallujah album, and it's just fucking awesome. They also lost a couple of band members after Dreamless, but Undying Light was just a little bit inconsistent, a little bit disengaged. There was a few songs that kind of hit the mark, but a lot of it felt just kind of underwhelming for me. And you know, part of that was also due to this kind of restrained style that the band have openly said they tried on that album. It just didn't really work for me, unfortunately.
Why would any band do that? That seems weird to me, like especially in this genre.
Yeah.
Let's hold back how talented we actually are.
I don't know. From the single we checked out, though, I could hear straight away this was going to go in a different kind of direction. And I was kind of hoping that they might be able to kind of recapture that greatness that they had on Dreamless, in my opinion, or at the very least kind of surpass what they did on the last album. The 2 remaining band members are joined on this album by vocalist Kyle Schaefer of Archaeologist, and also Evan Brewer on bass, who was previously in Entheos and the Faceless. He's fucking amazing. I don't know whether the kind of fresh blood in the band has given, you know, the other members motivation, but what I will say is this album is a head and shoulders above the last one. This album is really good. It kind of has all the stuff that you'd want to hear from Fallujah. Like, so if you're thinking, oh, we're going to get like a completely different album, it's not. You're still getting the elements of Fallujah that you've heard in the past, but it does have like an injection of almost like a kind of freshness to it. And more of a killer instinct that last album just didn't have. You know, I hadn't heard that from the band in a while. They've taken a lot of what worked in the past, you know, from like releases like Dreamless, even the Flesh Prevails as well. But I feel like they've also kind of learned from their mistakes of the last album, and they've kind of fixed it on this album. What I like, my favorite thing about Fallujah, that kind of the special move, I suppose, from Fallujah, is the way that they were always able to kind of swiftly weave those big, like, ethereal moments with the big uplifting leads and atmosphere into something that's utterly devastatingly heavy. And those moments are back on this album. And I think the execution of that on this album is really, really well done. I think the balance and the transitions of those kind of light and shade moments, they don't feel lopsided or they don't feel disconnected anymore. They are very kind of seamlessly blended on this album. And it makes the album feel far more kind of interconnected than Undying Light did, in my opinion. I also think that there's material on this album that could be Fallujah's most intense work to date. That opening track, The Bitter Taste of Clarity, is just chock full of killer riffs. You've got the kind of syncopated rhythms, guttural vocals. It's not a track that really focuses much on melody. There's a little bit, but it's a track that basically just wants to hit you kind of hard and fast as an opener. And then they kind of start to release more of that like texture and ambience into the sound throughout the album, giving you more of that kind of like the contrasting moments. But they often, they come back to something that's just relentless or, full of weight. Soul Crusher's another really good example of that. It's just really tight, really good guitar work and the intricate drumming, but also some really kind of slower, kind of more kind of chuggy parts on that track as well. Now, while this may not be, it's maybe not like Dreamless level for me because that album is just like up there. The lead work on Empyrean is really well done actually. I really enjoyed the kind of additional layers of this album. It's got a lot of kind of depth to it. I don't think the lead is maybe quite as kind of memorable as Dreamless. I felt like the lead lines on that album, at times they almost kind of replace the vocals at points. Here they do feel more of a kind of layer than like a focal point. But what you do get on Empyrean is a kind of new level from the vocals on this album. So you've got Kyle Schaefer, who is bringing a hell of a lot to the table. Not only can he do the kind of death growls and the high end screams, but he's got a really good melodic voice as well. And if you heard like Radiant Ascension, which was one of the singles, you'll know exactly what I mean. His clean tones are brilliant, adding another kind of component into the Fallujah sound. It's not something that they overdo. It's not on like every single track, but when he lets that side of his voice out, it gives the tracks that really kind of grand, that kind of epic feeling. So where the lead work maybe is not quite as imposing on this album, I think the clean vocals more than make up for it. As with previous Fallujah albums, Tori Letzler and Katie Thompson also lend their vocal skills to some tracks. And again, it just gives those tracks a little bit more distinction. You've also got Cheney Crab from Entheos on here delivering some just utterly devastating tones on Mindless Omnipotent Master. And then I have to mention Evan Brewer because the bass work on this album is unbelievable, like just second to none. And that, it was kind of expected for me, to be honest. Like, Fallujah are a progressive band, so I was like, there's no way they're going to bring Evan Brewer into this and not let him fucking go wild. And he's an unbelievable talent. Like, if you heard his solo work, it's just insane. But I like the fact that they let him show how good he actually is on this. He's not sitting in the background. He's not, sitting playing the root notes of everything. He gets his chance to be experimental and inventive, but it's tasteful. It's not too much. He doesn't go overboard with it. In particular, there was some bass lines on Duality of Intent where it's just he's sitting in that groove and it's so cool, man. He's grooving, but he's being progressive at the same time, and it's just really smooth. Just he's playing us off the charts. Just really, really good bass player. I think this is a definite improvement from Undying Light. I think, as I said, they've pulled in what made Dreamless and The Flesh Prevails great. But they haven't just tried to kind of recreate those albums. I think there's enough involvement and enough kind of changes in their songwriting to let this album kind of stand on its own without people saying, it just sounds like they've done Dreamless again or whatever. They haven't. They've definitely tried new things, especially vocally with bringing in Kyle. I think that's a really clever move. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the single when I first heard it, and I think if you like that first track, I think there's a good chance you'll probably dig this album. What about yourself? What did you make of the rest of the album?
So yeah, like right after the reaction, it was definitely on the I'm looking forward to checking this out. It was so many elements that I thought just sounded fucking huge. And I kind of foolishly left this to today. This was today's homework was, this is the last album I'm going to listen to. I dedicate my day to this. I kind of feel like a day isn't enough. And I mean that in the best possible way. It's an album that really does reward the re-listens. So I did 3 listens on this today. One this morning, one about lunchtime, and then one before we started recording here. And I'm still picking out just elements that I think are really cool. The songwriting is like top notch. Like, we are like less than 24 hours removed from, in fact, about 24 hours removed from seeing The Ocean.
Yeah.
The Ocean, the band, not actually going to see The Ocean. Oh, look at The Ocean. Like the actual The Ocean Collective play live. And I've been listening to a lot of them yesterday in prep for that. So my head was already kind of in the proggy, metal-y mind space. And Fallujah certainly have crossover there. But they're very much a different entity. They have they have a harder edge to them.
Oh yeah.
They are a heavier band. And what I love about it is those moments of cleanness and melody are in the same register. They occupy the same space as The Ocean, but they just seem to be able to just drop it down another gear, which kind of makes me love them even more. It's those contrasts between the two that really make everything stand out. Now, as I'm not a big fan of this band, like as in having listened to them previously in any great deal at all, I'm not coming in with that. The previous album sounded like this, so so I can only judge it on what I heard here. And I think, like, across the board, the songwriting is of a almost impeccable standard. And I would class them as movements as opposed to layers. Like, or the movements of the lead guitar work are just breathtaking. Like, absolutely, like, to the point that they were, because it's like solo work and it's also lead work, and then they would hit like a chord note or something, and I would just physically feel myself going, oh man, like that's not where I thought this was going. Kind of almost left field, but it fits. Yeah. And there's so many moments of that just come in, and the sound fills up. There's the one thing about this as well, is that at no point here does anything feel remotely thin. Everything is full, and it occupies every good set of headphones, occupies every space of the headphones. So it's a fully immersive sounding album. Yeah. And I was kind of taken aback by that. Like, so like I cruised through like the heavier parts of the opening of this album, and by Eden's Lament I was kind of at that stage where I'm like, all right guys, I've found my place. This is my bookmark, this is where I am. And then Soulbreaker kicks in, and Soulbreaker just is the fucking best placed song on this album, because it just shows a complete shift in intent. And you mentioned Duality of Intent before. That follows right in behind it, and those two songs back to back are just fucking chef kiss. And like to the point where you're getting a bit of everything. You're getting that kind of that really, really, really heavy fucking almost death metal-y like sound. You're getting this huge kind of almost post-metal fullness. You're getting melody, you're getting ambience, you're getting atmosphere, you're getting aggression, and none of it feels misplaced. It all feels right on point, which leads to the production. The production is perfect. Like, this is like a perfectly produced album, in that everything is nice and clean within its space, and it all adds, and you hear it. There's some backing melody. It sits like right at the perfect level to accentuate what is going on with the main vocals. And then by the time you reach Artifacts at the end, nice big long song, longest on the album, starts off this kind of heavier polish, and then you get this huge section of melody in the middle, and then this kind of section that leaves out. Plus, they still have time to throw in a fully instrumental track as the precursor to it. Celestial Resonance is another chef's kiss. I was listening to it going, once again, after seeing The Ocean last night, where with at least one or two songs in their set, which were essentially instrumentals, and hearing that and just taking it in, and then the vocalist comes back at stage and it hits you, and you just appreciate the band even more for being able to carry your interest through not having the focal point. Bands live, instrumental tracks tend not to work all that well in a metal set, and the reason behind that is the front man is there not only to do vocal duties, but he's a focal point for interest. But I was listening to this going like that, oh, you could just give me an album of this, and you're like Animals' Leader style, and I would fucking devour this. This is like a really, 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 really well done album from a band that I kind of am ashamed that, you know, I've really not paid that much attention to. They're definitely in my wheelhouse of interest. Of this, you know, this is hitting so many sweet spots for me that, you know, that like it makes me eager for sure. I don't know if I'll be jumping straight to that previous album after Dave's kind of vibes on it, but you know, maybe get to it someday. That's fucking awesome, man. It's really, 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 really good in a way where, once again, like my new thing just now is dream gig building, like all the time. And I was like, these guys could, like, you could have the heavier bands play after them, or you could have the more epic sounding bands. If you had these guys opening for like a Catatonia or something, I would be fucking stroking my cock raw. That's because I was just thinking you could come off that and then just get hit with a huge sound. I love this. I think this is really, really, really good. I think the guys have done themselves incredibly proud, and if this is the sound of the band from their press statement, you know, unshackling the bonds of restraint and putting everything on the table, it sounds like it, and it sounds fucking great.
Yeah, they're due to come over here in November, I think it is. Is it November?
I mean, one of the gigs I can't make. No
is
doubt.
That Faces of Death.
Aye, I don't know.
Thing.
Oh no, that's the end of the month, isn't it?
Yeah.
I will be there, Fallujah, and I will be shaking my hiney to your bad beats.
Rivers of Nihil, Fallujah, Allegaeon, and Ferry.
Rivers of Nihil and these guys in the same bill.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Fallujah and their new album. What are we thinking for the score of Empyrean? After being slightly kind of underwhelmed in the last album, I was like, oh god, I hope they really pull it off, and I think they really have pulled it off in this album. I think my first kind of couple of listens, I was like, yeah, this is probably a solid 4 out of 5. And then another couple of listens, I was like, this is starting to really kind of grow on me now. There's a lot going on, so it's one of those albums that does require a few listens. There's a lot of kind of layers and a lot of depth to it. I'm sitting at a 4.5 right now. As I said, Dreamless for me is like my favourite Fallujah. It's my go-to. This isn't far away, to be honest. Like it's very close, and I love the new elements they've brought in, especially vocally. I think he's bringing a lot more to the table than they had before. So it's a 4.5 from myself. Duncan, what are you thinking?
I'm right there with you. I think this is fucking great. Nothing I can really pick at. Like that's that frustrating way where you're just given a pure good. This album is like the very definition of a pure good. If you're a musician, you're gonna like rip the head off it listening to it. If you're a fan, I can't imagine you're not excited. And if you're just someone that's interested in heavy music or proggier elements, it's all fucking here and it's all good. 4.5.
Nice. So Empyrean drops on the 9th of September on Nuclear Blast. Links below to the band's Facebook, to the Bandcamp. Check it out. Let us know what you think. They've got some singles out already. Drop some comments in below. Once the album comes out, let us know your thoughts and opinions. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.